cream of the crop. And there is no one that does it better than the Macho Man Randy Savage. Finally, the Rock has come back.
This is where the big boys play, huh?
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
I am the best wrestler in the world.
Climb the ladder, kid. Make yourself famous.
These two are kicking each other's ass.
Oh my God, what the heck? What did Titus just... I can't believe what I just saw.
I'm better than you, and you know it.
Your AEW Women's World Champion, Dr. Britt Baker.
August 20th, 2021, I'm back. It's showtime, folks!
I guess I'll do like a slight intro this time because I noticed that I didn't introduce either of us last time.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna start talking, and I didn't introduce like anyone. So I guess I'll do hello, welcome to the WrestleBlast podcast. My name's David Cardiff, and my colleague here is Andre Wakefield. How you doing, man?
Okay. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. That's a terrible intro, but I think it'll do for now. We'll just.
You want to redo it?
No. We'll just stick with that for now, sure.
We're just giving ourselves room for growth. That's why we're doing this.
That's it. It's one day it'll be really good.
Yep.
That just sounded like I asked myself, am I me? We'll run with it anyway. What have you been up to, man, since we last spoke?
Not much. I got a new kitten, so that's exciting. But also, oh my gosh, you have kids, so I'm sure you know the chaos that they bring. I don't have kids, but this kitten, man, doesn't let you sleep. You can't do anything. Like, she's biting all my wires. I can't watch a movie for more than like 2 minutes without her trying to like pull the tea bag out of my tea or anything like that. So it's just been chaos. I haven't been sleeping very well because of it.
That pretty much just sounds like kids, to be honest with you. It
Yeah.
just sounds like a child. We have had cats and we've got a dog and stuff, so it brings an added element of stress into your life. But yeah, it just sounds like a kid, to be honest with you. They're always trying to pull stuff out of my drink or shitting or weighing everywhere, so...
Yeah, I've had kittens and cats before. I actually have another cat, but I don't remember any cat being this crazy.
That's going to keep you on your toes, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely been exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't been doing too much since we last sort of spoke. I spent the last week pretty much laid up in bed. I've only just started feeling sort of normal this afternoon and then into today, or this evening, so doing a lot better now. But yeah, watching...
That's good.
Wrestling, playing games, the usual. Playing Hot Wheels Unleashed. I don't know if you've seen that this time.
I heard of it. I've not played it.
Yeah, I like racing games.
I heard it was actually pretty good.
It is. It's really good. It's a nice arcade racer, and I managed to get access to the Battlefield 2042 beta as well. So that went live yesterday. So I've been playing away at that, and it's pretty decent. I'm looking forward to the main game.
I recently played a game called Kana Bridge of Spirits. I think that's what it's called. Have you heard of that?
I haven't actually. No, is it on Steam or Switch or?
No, it's on. Actually, it is on PC, but I'm not sure. It's probably one of those Epic exclusives or something. But it is on PlayStation. I played it on PS5, and it's an indie game. It's a first-time developed game, and it was actually really good. It has really good graphics and everything. It's kind of like Zelda in a way, I guess. It's not really open world, but it's like you just go to different areas and then like you go back to the hub. It opens up another area once you unlock like a certain skill or whatever. And it's a nice little 3 to 4 days adventure. I liked it. Nice one.
Yeah. I'm very jealous of you. You're PS5, and the only game that I would want on the PS5, which is Demon's Souls. I'm a massive Souls series fan, so looking forward to Elden Ring that's coming out. But yeah, Demon's Souls on PS5 just looks unbelievable.
I tried it for about an hour.
Too much.
I made zero progress.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. Like when I was working in like GameStop, I remember somebody brought in like an import copy of Demon Souls before it came out in the West, and we took it in and I bought it, and I was just like, I had no idea what the game was, never heard about it, and obviously we were, I sold games, and I was like, what is this weird game that, it was on the PS3 was big. And I was just like, what is this game? And then I started playing it. I had no idea what was going on. And I was just like, there was something really addictive about it. It was just, the constant sort of dying scenario over and over again, but kind of enjoying it. And ever since then, I've been a massive fan.
Oh, speaking of dying over and over again, have you played Deathloop?
I haven't. No. Looks good.
I got that game and I played it, and it's actually, it's pretty fun. It has some of those elements similar to Demon Souls, but it's not brutally hard or anything like that. It's not overly frustrating. The problem is, after playing for about 4 hours, I ran into a glitch where you pause the game and it kind of gets stuck on it, and you can't unpause it unless you restart the whole console. And this has happened to me 2 or 3 times on PS5. And the problem with that is that you go on these runs. You go into a level, and it's like this big open world. It's kind of like Dishonored. It's made by the same people, if you've ever played that.
Yeah, I love
so
it.
you go like into a city, and your goal is to like, okay, I'm gonna like go through this building, gonna stealth everything, gonna find some clues, because I need this weapon or this augment or whatever. And this can literally take you about an hour, if not more, to do. And towards the end is when this little bug happened, and I'm like, oh, I'm not redoing this. I'll come back later. I'll wait for a patch. This is ridiculous. I hate repeating stuff, especially when it's not my fault.
Yeah, sounds like the same sort of issues that, like, I guess Cyberpunk had whenever it sort of first released and was resetting progress and doing all that sort of stuff. But it looks really good. I mean, those guys make a solid game, like the publishers of like Dishonored, so it looks class. So I guess we'll sort of try and, as we said last time, we'll try and keep the podcasts down in size. No retrospectives anyway this time. Maybe something I can bring in once we do our next review, which we'll reveal at the end. But so we're not going to look at what was happening in 2018. But for today, we're reviewing All In from 2018. There's no marquee or header. It's not technically Ring of Honor. It's not technically New Japan Pro Wrestling, and it's not technically AAA or Impact. But it sort of is this weird. In AEW, they talk about the forbidden door being open. This is like, all of those doors opened at one time, and nobody really sort of taking any kind of like responsibility for what came out of it. But it's on the internet. It's on YouTube, so you can watch it all. So if you haven't heard of All In, you can check it out on YouTube at the moment anyway, and give it a watch.
When I was trying to look stuff up about it, it's really hard to Google for. When you type in All In, you get all kinds of stuff, and it's not the pay-per-view. So you have to go, do I type in All In AEW? No, because then All Out comes up. Yeah. Because that's the AEW show. And All In pay-per-view, and it's just like a bunch of random stuff again. It's pretty hard to Google for.
Yeah, when I was putting together like the graphics and stuff, and I was trying to sort of get all of the guys in the way they looked in 2018 for the sort of, the thumbnail of the podcast and stuff. It was really tricky because obviously Cody's got a neck tattoo now, so you have to Google an old picture of Cody, and just, as you say, like trying to put in like All In is such a generic name. All Out as well is such a generic name. We were talking last time about like, a Starcade or something. I think they need like to create a bit more of a zappier name or something for their sort of marquee event. I guess All Out is their replacement to All In, but
at least All Out you can type in AEW All Out, and that makes it easier.
Yeah, that is true. So let's get into our All In review. I
tried taking notes, which I usually never do.
Okay,
so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, man, you're a brave man. I did take notes for all of the matches just because it's a force of habit, with this. God, some of these matches are really hard to take notes for.
I'm terrible at taking notes. That's why I never do. But this time I decided to do it, and now I'm looking at my notes, and half of my notes I have no idea what I'm referring to.
Okay, well, I do have fairly comprehensive notes for this. Not mad notes. It's not like War and Peace on a page here, but hopefully it'll be decent enough. So just a quick sort of, before we get into the sort of card and reviewing the sort of pay-per-view, I guess. All In's is really weird. As I mentioned there, it doesn't really fall into, Impact or Ring of Honor. So there isn't really like an episode of those shows that leads up to this. This is pretty much built around a lot of YouTube storytelling through Being the Elite. A lot of the stories sort of came from that. There are some that just sort of based themselves from, like an Impact or a Ring of Honor, but it's more so, it was more geared towards the online viewers than actually, the actual sort of, I guess, cable viewers at the time. It's the first sort of big show held in the US since 1993 to draw more than 10,000 people. So like that's excluding WCW and WWE. Okay. So no one's actually drawn this amount of people that have not been under the banner of either of those companies, which is kind of incredible.
TNA never?
No.
10,000? Oh,
no,
wow.
No, quite small shows. I mean, in 2002, 2003, they were doing what's known as sort of, I guess, like, is it monthly or weekly pay-per-views they started off doing? It wasn't really a TV show. It was more of a sort of a pay-per-view per episode sort of thing. And then even at their height for like Bound for Glory or like, 2007 when you had Kurt Angle and stuff in the mix, they weren't really venturing out of the Impact Zone. And then when they did finally start to move out of the Impact Zone and give up their home in Orlando, they were really not drawing too well, which is kind of why they tried to go back to doing it at Universal or wherever it was in Orlando, and never really got back to the way it was, in 2005, 2007, when Impact was really, really big. So yeah, since 1993, this is the first sort of proper, true independent show that actually managed to break that boundary. And as we said in the last episode, or as I was saying, pretty much came about because of Dave Meltzer, a wrestling journalist. For those not familiar with the name, Dave Meltzer is probably the sort of premier journalist, the guy who's been doing it the longest, next to like a Bill Apter or somebody who's kind of revered in the field of what he does. He tweeted a response to somebody saying, somebody asked him, could there be an independent show ran in the United States that gets like over 10,000, and he said probably not. And Cody responded by saying, "I'll take that bet," and sort of moved into a weird, I guess, relationship between the company he was working for at the time, New Japan and Ring of Honor, and managed to sort of get them to sort of come together, as it were, and join hands. So there was, I don't know if you watched it, but there was a 0 hour, like a pre-show.
I didn't watch it. I didn't really. It wasn't part of the video that I watched.
Yeah, neither did I.
But I did see the results. I saw the results. It was like a battle royal, and then there was one more match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like one of the stories, there was a tag team match between SCU and the Briscoes from ROH. So like the battle royale was really designed for anyone who the person who won it would then move on to the main card and get a Ring of Honor World Championship match, which was Flip Gordon, obviously.
Yeah.
So the storyline was basically leading up to this. I did watch Being the Elite at the time. I didn't go back and watch it because it's too much. But I do remember like Flip Gordon was trying to get onto the pay-per-view. He was like a sort of protege of Cody at the time. He was sort of begging, trying to get on, and they wouldn't let him on. And then eventually they sort of put him into the Battle Royale, and the fans went mad. The whole idea was basically to get Flip Gordon over. They by denying Flip going into it straight away, they were getting the fans to get behind him, and it worked out quite nicely because the crowd was absolutely ecstatic to see Flip Gordon. I couldn't quite believe it, but there we are. This is in the Sears Center, Chicago. They took in nearly, or just over 50,000 pay-per-view buys, which
that's pretty good, I think.
I couldn't really find out like an actual amount of how much money they made. and we can only really sort of gauge 50,000. It must be to they rounded it down or up or something. So it's hard to sort of tell actually how much money they made off of it. But if we say that they were charging like $14.99 for the pay-per-view, you could probably estimate it at about sort of 800 to 900, maybe $1 million. If they were charging at the time 34, then you just double it, or 30, you just double it upwards. So it seems like a pretty good solid number. And again, as well, that doesn't take into account the actual ticket buys. So, if you've got 10,000 and you're charging $30 a pop or something like that, I mean, it's a substantial amount of money, I think, that they made off of this. So, and obviously, people seeing that, like Tony Khan, going, oh, there's money to be made here, an independent show or promotion would work. So,
was Tony Khan at the show in attendance? Because I've read some stuff that this is where like he was in attendance and he was very impressed, and he went backstage to meet with Cody, and that's kind of how AEW birthed, I guess, or was conceptualized.
Yeah, it's definitely the catalyst for AEW. I don't really know. I mean, I'm sure it is out there. It's just not something I looked at to see if Tony Khan was in attendance. John Mayer was in attendance, and they were very happy with John Mayer. I don't really know who John Mayer is. Is he a singer? I guess
he's a singer. Yeah.
Okay. I'm pretty out of touch. And Macaulay Culkin was there too, which they showed later on too. So
I was looking at something. It was probably my cat. But I did hear the commentator say, "Is that Macaulay Culkin?" And I was like, "Wait, did I miss that?"
Yeah, Macaulay Culkin's a massive wrestling fan, and he has been.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
He's a huge wrestling fan. There's a video podcast series, OSW, in Ireland here, that they're somehow weirdly friends with Macaulay Culkin because he's such a big fan of theirs. It's bananas, but yeah, Macaulay Culkin is a huge wrestling fan and has his own podcast and probably talks about wrestling. I don't really listen to it, so I don't know, but I just know that he's a big wrestling fan. Okay. So getting onto the show, I guess we'll go through this. This was your first time seeing it, wasn't it?
Yeah, first time seeing it, and first time seeing a lot of the people on it.
There's a good to that and there's a bad to that. I'm pretty sure we'll probably get into it.
I have some things to say.
Awesome.
When we get to it.
I'm probably the most excited to hear what you thought about a lot of these matches, so I'm just going to let you run when we go to these matches and stuff.
Okay.
So the show opens. There are a few notes about the actual quality of the show. Not talking about the matches, but the actual sort of production. What did you sort of think about like the graphics and the way the show was presented and everything, and the stage design? How did you sort of feel about it?
The stage was okay. The stage was fine. The graphics were obviously like super bare bone, especially like the nameplate. It was like the most basic nameplate I've ever seen, but it's okay. I mean, it's an indie show. I'm sure this cost them a lot, especially some of the names that they brought in. Like, I'm sure Rey Mysterio wasn't cheap. And they brought these guys in, and to rent out an arena of that size, they did okay with their budget. I've seen companies with bigger budgets have worse production, so
yeah,
they did okay.
Yeah, it was quite. I quite liked it. It was it's not too far away, I guess, from what we have in Dynamite. It's like a bare bones version of Dynamite in a lot of ways. In that the wrestlers come up from the side up a flight of stairs, but on Dynamite obviously you have the little tunnels and stuff over the stairs, so you don't get to see them coming up the stairs. So the show opens with Star Spangled Banner. That's the name of the American national anthem. I'm going to completely blank here. Do you like? I mean, it's one thing I guess we've never really touched on when we were doing our sort of WCW shows or WWE shows, and they always sort of start off with Star Spangled Banner. Do you, as an American, like the fact that they have the sort of national anthem, or do you would you prefer that they just didn't? Like, as an American, how does it sort of? Does it appeal to you, or does it not really bother you too much?
Without getting too political, hopefully, the past 5 years have been not the proudest years for America. So having a show where you have Mexicans main eventing, and you're proudly singing this American song, it's just, I don't know. It's just a little weird, I think, because when I went to a Monday Night Raw, they didn't do that, and they don't do that at other pay-per-views. So it was kind of weird seeing it here, but I mean, it is what it is. I'm not like offended by it or anything. I could have done without it, but it's there. I kind of just like went to the bathroom, made my tea, and came back ready for the matches.
You don't stand upright in your room and sort of put your hand over your heart and sort of look at the screen.
No,
no.
I don't take a knee, but
No.
I don't stand up either.
It's kind of like a trope, I guess. I think the way I look at it, I sort of think of it like a trope because, like, WrestleMania obviously has it every year. They have somebody come out and sort of sing it, and like it's weird because WWE are obviously they're heavily sort of pushing their international market. They're looking at India, looking at Mexico. They're trying to get as many viewers in as possible. And there was a comment recently by Bruce Pritchard, why I'm bringing this up anyway, about the sort of full Star Spangled Banner, where he said the reason why they don't usually have people go over in their own town. So like Bailey might lose in like where she lived, like Sacramento or somewhere. Yeah. So she gets beaten in her hometown, and the crowd are cheering for her and really excited to see her, and then they beat her. And they're like, well, we do that because... And the comment was something along the lines of, well, we do that because we have a much wider audience. So it's not just about the people in the town that they're currently in, it's about the sort of international market, which then sort of defies logic when you're sort of playing the American national anthem to start off a big show, do you know? But
yeah, that explanation doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's strange, but it's the sort of done thing, which is why I sort of think it's a bit like a trope to have the American national anthem playing when you're trying to appeal to a much wider audience. But I mean, it sounds great, it looks great, it did give the show a big sort of feel, I guess. It makes it, it elevates it up to like not a WrestleMania, but it sort of brings it up a little bit to have that sort of happening.
Yeah, it makes it look legitimate.
But in the interest of sort of time with the show, maybe not a great idea when they were getting towards the end of the show, which we'll get on to.
Yes.
Our first match was MJF versus Matt Cross, and this is probably your first time seeing Matt Cross, was it?
Kind of. I had no idea who Matt Cross was. He looked kind of old to me, but like athletic, but old. It's like his body is like of this 25-year-old, but his face is like this 45-year-old. But once I started seeing him do moves, I recognized them, and I'm like, holy crap, this is Son of Havoc from Lucha Underground. And I've seen about 15 to 20 episodes of Lucha Underground before, so I recognize the moves, especially the one where he like jumps towards the ropes with his shoulders or something and bounces off,
Okay.
You know that move? And I was like, wow, that's Son of Havoc. So I guess I have seen him before, and he really impressed me in this match. Yeah.
The first thing that sort of struck me about this match was the narrow entrance ramp that they were coming down, which was just it was like a flight of stairs for like an old age pensioner, because they had the little rails. It was really strange seeing this flight of stairs where a ramp would be, and then you could literally touch either side of the crowd just by like it was so narrow, I couldn't believe it. But
I noticed that during Tessa Blanchard's entrance, when she stretches her arms out and her arms are like at the elbows is where the crowd is.
Yeah, she's elbows deep in the crowd. It was kind of interesting to sort of see this, but the Titantron looked good, I thought, as well. I thought everything looked kind of cool.
And they got some pyro.
They did. They got some sort of some spooty pyro and some fire extinguishers from underneath the ground as well coming up too. Some of them were ridiculously loud for one of the later matches. I can't remember who it was, but it was deafening how loud it was. But yeah, so just quickly starting into the match here. It's interesting seeing MJF here. This would have been my first time seeing MJF when I watched it in 2018, and obviously now we've sort of seen him as part of AEW since the inception, and he hasn't really changed that much. He's still doing the sort of the cocky heel, he's better than you, and same sort of moves. And
the one thing that surprised me is that he lost, because I'm so used to seeing him winning all the time on AEW and kind of being more of a main eventer in there, but here he was more of an opener. But yeah, you're right, his character is still the same.
Yeah, so we got a lot of sort of handshakes and jaw jacking between him and Cross at the start. Matt Cross hit like this lovely Sasuke special, which is really impressive. I mean, you mentioned there like the flips and stuff this guy can do is just incredible. The stuff that he was doing.
What exactly is the Sasuke special? Because in my notes, I was very impressed with the like a cartwheel.
Yeah, that was
flip
it.
over the top rope. Okay,
yeah, that's it. So it's like a cartwheel twisting splash over the top.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable.
That was very cool.
And it was like it was so smooth. It was buttery over the top. It was probably picture perfect, I guess.
Yeah.
MJF uses the ref as a human shield. I'm not going to go step by step, move for move, but just some of the sort of highlights, I guess, from the match. He does tell the crowd he's the future, whether you like it or not, which is obviously very true with him in AEW now. He works over Cross's arms with like arm breakers and stuff. There's a nice Hurricane Rana from Cross off the top. Cross is obviously selling the arm through springboards. I don't know if you noticed. So when MJF was working over his arm, he's actually holding his arm at sort of like in a sort of invisible sling as he's doing stuff, which was incredible. Great selling from him. There was a stomp off of the ropes to Cross onto Cross's arms. There was a package shoulder breaker, which looked awesome.
Never seen that before.
Yeah, it was kind of. I don't think I've seen MJF do it before, but it looked absolutely tremendous.
Yeah.
I've got a note here. It just says Excalibur is great with his calls. I thought that he was one of the standout performers from the show. I thought just during this match as well, he was really like hammering into people how much of a dick MJF is. And it really did assist the match for people, maybe wouldn't be familiar with a Matt Cross or a MJF. He was able to sort of tell a story during the match, and you'll find this for a lot of the matches where he's just able to sort of give you the story of what's happened in the past month in the background as the match is going along, which is great. Especially if you're watching this like we are, sort of, out of context and just sort of picking it up for for you anyway, for the first time. So let's have a look. So MJF hits a rope assisted pendulum pile driver, and Cross hits a springboard cutter and then a shooting star press for the pinfall and win in 9:23. So it's quite short. But I thought they got a lot in. I thought it was a really good match. We were chatting last time about sort of like a star system we were going to maybe give like matches, and using the Grapple app, which is a free application you can get. This isn't actually on Grapple, but I did mark down my stars. So if ever I'm communicating with Gareth, who runs Grapple, I'll maybe suggest to him that maybe AEW or All Out or All In, God, I'm getting confused now, should go on this. But I thought it was like a 3.5 star match. I thought it was a nice little quick opener. What did you sort of think overall of it?
Yeah, I'm not very good with these star ratings because once I get deep into it after a few matches, I start comparing them and I'm like, well, I give this one a 7. Well,
I do the same as well.
A 7. It just gets really confusing for me. But if 3.5 means good, then that's what I want to give it.
Yeah.
So 3.5 sounds good. Yeah.
Awesome. And you liked the match and you liked everyone in it, and there was no sort of nothing you didn't like from it?
Obviously, I know MJF from AEW, so I kind of knew what to expect, and he kind of gave me what I expected. But Matt Cross, like I said, very impressive. I don't understand why he's not in AEW, or he never even made a one-off appearance, as far as I know. I think he should be there, at least like for like an occasional TNT Championship match or something like that. He is kind of up there in age, so I don't know how much of a future he has. But it would be great to see him on AEW every once in a while.
Yeah, I think he was 40 at the time, or 41.
Yeah, he's around 40.
Yeah, he is up there, but I mean, you have likes of CM Punk, who's in his 40s, 42, 41. So
yeah, but also Matt Cross is, I feel like, very high risk. His wrestling style is very high risk and very athletic. So yeah, I don't know how long he can keep it up.
Well, that's it. I mean, maybe he will be in there one day. Maybe he'll be in like a battle royale, the casino battle royale. They do every year, so maybe we'll see him there. Moving backstage for the first time, we get Sean Mooney interviewing Nick Aldis. There was a slight gaffe by the commentary team because they thought it was going to cut to an Aldis promo or like a different. What was it? Stephen Amell Daniels promo. They weren't too sure.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember who it was. I didn't write it down, but it was supposed to be like a promo of somebody else, not Nick Aldis.
And then they sort of said, "Oh, actually, it's this." Are you familiar with Sean Mooney? I know he's more from my sort of childhood, I guess.
Sean Mooney, no. Nick Aldis, I've heard of. I think he was in TNA, but he had a different name.
Brutus Magnus.
Oh yes, that's right. I keep getting him and Crimson mixed up for some reason. I don't know why, because Crimson is like
team. I think they were a team. Maybe, possibly.
Yeah, maybe.
He had a brutal name, pun intended, fully in TNA. Yeah, Brutus Magnus was the name. We get Jerry Lynn as the ref for the next match, and it's Stephen Amell versus Christopher Daniels. Again, the build up to this had been basically, from what I remember, all done through being in the Elite, and it was Stephen Amell saying something disparaging about Christopher Daniels, and then the two of them having a match off the back of it. I can't remember the full details, but it weren't in the match anyway.
My biggest question is, what does Jerry Lynn have anything to do with this?
I haven't got a clue. I think he was it was just a payday for Jerry. Get him on the show. Get a few people excited to see Jerry Lynn who loved ECW, so I was happy to see Jerry.
One of the things I wish that they had on the show was like a video package or something for some of these matches.
Yeah, this one could have done with it. I don't think there was one that I've missed, but they
did one for Cody and Aldis, but we'll get to that later.
Cool. Okay, so there's a lot of back and forth, jaw-jacking between Amell and Daniels. Amell, obviously for those not familiar with just the name, he was the Green Arrow in Arrow, and he's currently doing a TV show called Heels, which I haven't watched yet, but it's getting good reviews and stuff, so I might give that a watch. I think CM Punk's in that as well, so one to check out.
I haven't watched it either, but yes.
So yeah, there's a lot of jaw-jacking between the two, bit of disrespectful slapping going on. Amell, as we sort of get into the match here, Amell sets up a table after some like decent fundamentals. So there's like drop kicks, enziguris, all the stuff you'd sort of expect out of just a standard wrestling match. He is quite limited because he's an actor. He's not an actual wrestler. But he's had, I think before this, he had a match with Cody, possibly, at one stage.
I remember him and Neville, who now goes by Pac. They had a tag team match against Cody, and I want to say the Ascension, but I might be wrong. But it had something to do with Cody when he was Stardust.
Oh, okay. There you go. So Daniels takes control with an over-the-head release backdrop. The crowd was really into this one. Daniels hits an Arabian moonsault off the second rope, which is basically just like a springboard, moonsault where he sits down in the ropes and propels him backwards. Amell hits a Falcon Arrow and then a coast-to-coast dropkick, which is kind of impressive to see. There's like a running gag throughout the night where Excalibur says no one kicks out of a Falcon Arrow, and then everyone kicks out of a Falcon Arrow, which I was quite amused by as the night went on. But what do you think of this move? I mean, it was incredible to see Stephen Amell leaping across the ring, although Christopher Daniels had to sort of like lean his head into it.
The one thing that stood out to me was the commentator said shades of Rob Van Dam, but the first thing I thought of was Shane McMahon, and I was like, "Oh man!"
Yeah, Shane McMahon's VCR was set to record, and he definitely took inspiration from I think it was called the Van Terminator. Rob Van Dam.
Oh yes, yeah. Of course, no one can do it like RVD, because RVD can fly. But I mean, it was a cool move. He tried. Christopher Daniels is not the first one that has to lean into it. There were others. Almost everyone.
Yeah, that's it. That's why the chair's there, so the chair hits them, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Normally. Both men end up on the top turnbuckle. Daniels ends up rolling onto the table and lures Amell into jumping through the table. I thought it was kind of nice, and it was explained by, I think, Excalibur or Ian Riccaboni, who's our other announcer or commentator, where you sort of, I was watching it. I remember back in the day as well when I watched this in 2018, and I'm watching the two of them go up, and I'm like, Jesus, one of them's going to go flying off this, and then Daniels ends up sort of safely rolling onto the apron, and then happens to roll off the apron, and then onto the floor, standing up, and then rolls onto the table. It was really weird, and then I was sort of like, they're not going to do this. Surely they're not going to be like, getting himself into position so obviously. And then I kind of liked the fact that it was just to lure Stephen Amell off the top rope and jump through the table himself. I was really impressed by this, and it was explained perfectly by Excalibur. He was like the veteran move here to get this guy to come off the top, which was great.
I was actually thinking the same thing, because I was like, he's getting way too comfortable on that table. He's about to like take a nap the way he was cuddling up on there.
Absolutely. Jerry Lynn drags both the men back in the ring, takes his ref shirt off after arguing with Daniels, and we get a bit of a moment between the two. Amell counters Angel's Wings, Daniels kicks out, and then the match ends after a BME with Daniels victorious after 12 minutes and 30 seconds. There was a BME earlier in the match.
It was botched.
Which was botched because he missed him by quite a considerable amount.
Yeah, he hit him with his head. With his face.
Yeah, pretty much. But overall, I thought this was a fairly decent match. I mean, for a guy who's not a wrestler against an actual wrestler who's been at it for years and has had one of the greatest matches of all time in TNA with the Joe and AJ match, I thought that it was nice to see Christopher Daniels, and I gave it a 3.25, a 3.25 star. I enjoyed it.
I'm gonna give it a 2.5. If 2.5 means average, for me this was a pretty average match. Yeah, when you take the fact into consideration that Amell is an actor, you probably should bump it up. But I mean, I'm judging it for what it is.
That's fair. I couldn't argue that. I mean, you could give it anywhere between 2 and whatever you want. Really, I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, we've got Tenille Dashwood and Mandy Leon. Being interviewed by Ian Riccaboni and Excalibur in this sort of awkward juxtaposition commentary team that they've got going on. This is just obviously for the next match, and it was the 4-way between Madison, Rayne, Tessa Blanchard, Chelsea Green and Britt Baker. Obviously another staple that we see all the time now, which is great. Funny, I mean, I completely forgot that Britt Baker was even on this pay-per-view. So it was kind of surprising and nice to see, her on this show, so...
Yeah, she looked a lot more underdeveloped here than she does now. I think she's improved a lot since this. I was pretty impressed. One thing I wrote down is this Mandy Leon. I have no idea who she is, but to me, maybe it was the fact that I was watching a 360p video on a 4K TV, but to me, she looked like a third Bella twin, or a triplet, I should say.
You say that laughing, but like I did actually completely blank and thought it was the Bellas at the start when they came out, because they're sort of spit, they had the sort of hair, down, and I couldn't really see them, and I was like, have I missed something? Have I completely forgotten about something going on here? I had no idea who they were either. I recognize the name Tenille Dashwood.
She was Emma. She was Emma in WWE. She always did this thing.
Oh, right.
Like in 2014, I think.
I get you now, right? Yes,
yeah.
She was actually really good in WWE as well. Another underutilized person. So we got Britt Baker coming out to Adam Cole's old indie music. So this is when Adam Cole, just after Adam Cole had gone to NXT.
Okay.
Maybe a wee while ago, I can't remember. But she came out to his old sort of theme music. And we got sort of Tully and Magnum coming out with Tessa Blanchard. So it was hard to follow this one at the start. It did get better, but the camera was all over the show. I don't know if you found it in this match, but because there was so many things happening, the cameraman was sort of on the outside and then having to sort of quickly divert to different directions.
Yeah, their production truck probably wasn't the biggest, and they probably didn't have the most cameras. I did notice throughout the show that the camera works a little weird at times. And in a 4-way match, that's definitely where you're going to lose track of people.
Yeah, they sort of went to the sort of like the same trope that most 3-ways and 4-ways go to. So like Baker and Chelsea Green start after the others brawl to the outside, so then you sort of have the pairing off in the ring, and then that's pretty much the way this match stays. You'll always get two people in the ring, somebody will get booted out, and then another person will come in and replace another person, so that there's always sort of just the two people sort of keeping control. Chelsea Green, great to see her here. Obviously she was in WWE for a cup of coffee, got let go during the pandemic after she broke her wrist again. Really, this was when she had, I think, just after, or maybe it had been going for a little while, the Hot Mess character, where she was like this, playing off this like a ditched bride. Like, you know, like that was the character. She was ditched at the bride, and then she was like basically drinking. So she was like drunk half the time. I remember like hearing like an interview with her where she was explaining that when she was asked to do a promo, she'd been drinking. Like she was finished for the day, and I think she'd had a few drinks and stuff, so she was like half cut, and they were like, oh no, we need you for this promo, and she's like, but I'm buzzed here, and they were like, this is perfect, and it just sort of stuck, and the character sort of became like an exaggeration of her being drunk and a bit of a mess, so aka you get the hot mess. Okay, well that explanation makes me feel a little bit better about it, because when I was watching this, I was like, she's trying too hard to have a gimmick. That was my initial thought. And with her entrance, she reminded me of Daphne. That's a good call.
Yelling and screaming, because I remember this segment where I think Daphne was gonna marry David Flair on Nitro or something, and she was coming out with flowers too, if I remember correctly, and that's kind of what it reminded me of.
What a catch! Like David Flair, like was at one stage legitimately going out with Stacy Keibler.
Yeah, and Tori Wilson.
I don't know how he did it. I mean, it must have been the rosy cheeks. He must have just pulled them in with his weird rosy cheeks, like for a 30-odd-year-old. Like,
he got Rick's jeans.
Yeah, literally his pair of jeans. He didn't get anything to do with his actual athletic ability.
Well, maybe he got his lady getting abilities.
Maybe, yeah. He got some kind of weird charisma that we never got to see on TV.
Yeah.
So we got Blanchard removing Chelsea Green, so we get her versus Baker briefly before Madison Rayne picks Baker off. We got a really impressive gorilla press slam by Blanchard to Rayne to the others on the outside. We got a tope suicida from Green to the outside on Baker. We got a bit of a Blanchard with a bit of a sloppy catapult to the outside. We got Madison Rayne off the top to the outside with the crossbody, so that this is sort of similar to like the final match where there's like somebody just like once one person does like a dive to the outside, everyone is then doing a dive to the outside. So there's a bit of like a house show mentality on this show. It's sort of presented in a big way, but there's a lot of house show sort of handshakes. Will they, won't they, are they gonna get on, are they gonna have a handshake again? There's a lot of that sort of stuff you would see on like if you're going to a WWE house show or like a an Impact house show. We got a series of sling blades to all by Baker. There's a cutter by Rayne to Baker. There's a decent delayed vertical suplex by Blanchard to Rayne. There's a jumping something by Rayne to Baker off the top. Yeah. I had no idea what this was, but it was just basically they just lost track of what they were doing, I guess. There was an unprettier by Green to Rayne, a super kick by Baker to Green. Blanchard hit this rough code breaker onto Chelsea Green, who just looked like she bit it in the face. It was. I
didn't even realize that was a code breaker. It just looked like almost like a Kinshasa, like a Shinsuke Nakamura type knee strike.
Yeah, it was. It was meant to be like a jumping code breaker. I don't know if you've ever seen that, where like he grabs them by the head and pulls them down on top of them when they're coming off the top.
Yeah.
It sort of looked like that, but it was pretty botchy, so it was hard to tell if it was a code breaker or meant to be a code breaker. We get a Madison Rayne with a crucifix powerbomb to Blanchard for a near fall. There's a jumping unprettier by Green to Baker. There's a destroyer by Green to Blanchard for a near fall. A hammerlock DDT from Blanchard to Green, and then there's this weird moment as the ref counts 3 where Baker jumps in, and everyone thinks the pin was broken up, but Blanchard wins. And there was a 3 count. I did go back and actually watch it. So yeah, it was a weird ending. I'm not sure if Baker got sort of muddled up at the end, but overall, like, I mean, this was a match. The match was over in 12 minutes and 41 seconds, and I thought it was 3 3/4 stars anyway. I thought it was decent enough. It was great seeing Britt Baker, and this is obviously before Tessa Blanchard made a bit of a fool of herself, and is no longer going to be on any of the sort of top independent shows, I guess.
So here's what I wrote in my notes. At the beginning of the match, they advertised this match as a survival match. So when you think 4-way survival, you think elimination, because the last person to survive is the winner. So they literally explain that survival, in fact, is not survival. It's first pin to win, and that's it. So I thought that was kind of strange. To me, I did not like this match. I thought it was very sloppy, and so many botches, and I hate the Canadian Destroyer. I hate that move. It looks so stupid. Like, everyone does it nowadays, and almost no one can do it right. It just looks so fake, and it always kind of takes me out of the moment. Yeah. To me, the only woman out of all 4 of these that I've actually seen perform is Britt Baker. So the other 3 are new to me, and I feel like, especially in this match, Tessa Blanchard just looked way above and beyond the other 3. Mm-hmm. Like, everything she did, almost everything, it just looked very legitimate, very like hard hitting, and looked like it hurt. The other 3, you could kind of tell they're cooperating with each other when they're doing the moves. So to me, she really stood out, and I wrote, like, it's such a shame that her personal kind of views got her in trouble. And although I agree that her views are not good, should not be promoted, she should not be rewarded for racism or whatever she was putting out there, but it's a shame because she just has the it factor, as they say. She just looks like a big star, and I think anywhere she would go, she would be a big star in the women's division.
Yeah, certainly. I think I enjoyed it a little bit more just because I've seen all these women. I knew who they were. Madison Rayne, obviously Impact, Chelsea Green, with Impact again, and yeah, it's a sad, it's a shame about Tessa Blanchard. At this stage, I'm not sure if this is when she was wrestling for the Impact World Championship, which she did wrestle against Sami Callihan, I think it was, and win it off him. I'm not sure. She was sort of presented almost like a China in Impact, I think was the best way to sort of look at it. But sort of, trying to sort of make women's wrestling a lot more than, just sort of set off to the side like AEW sort of does at the moment, where it's sort of just they're getting better with it, but it's they're trying to make it a little bit more like the women should be able to compete with the men ultimately, because it's not real fighting ultimately. But yeah, I mean, WWE were interested in picking her up not long after this, and then I think it was not too long after this that it all sort of came out that she'd been very dismissive, very sort of racial comments and stuff like that, and I think now she just got picked up by another promotion called WOW, Women of Wrestling.
That's what I heard yesterday.
So yeah, that's going to be AJ Lee's going to be one of the producers on it, and it's by one of the original, I guess the original creator of Glow. So that'll be interesting to sort of see if she's how she's going to get on. Is she going to be repentant? Is she going to make good, I guess, on the sort of career that she should have had ultimately at this stage? We'll have to sort of wait and see, but yeah, certainly I'm not going to lose any sleep not seeing her on AEW or a WWE show. So
yeah, I agree. I hope she kind of redeems herself. I mean, people can change and grow. I mean, it's not likely people who think that way in their mid-30s, they're not likely to change, but there's always a chance, And I forgot to give a star rating. I'm going to give half a star for every lady in this match, so we get a total of 2 out of 5.
Okay, wow. I went really high then.
There.
I should drop mine down to 2.75, but I don't know. There's something about it just spoke to me, so I'm going to stick with it.
You like what you like. I'm sure somewhere down the line you're gonna give I'm gonna give something a 4 and you're gonna give it a 2. It happens.
I think there might be one later. We'll see. Okay, so next we get the intro to Aldis versus Cody, and as the commentators are sort of introducing this package, you can hear, like, I don't know if you could hear it, but I could hear somebody in the background sort of chatting over like a radio. Did you get this?
I didn't catch that. No.
Okay.
Were you wearing headphones when you were watching?
Yes.
Oh, I wasn't. So
okay.
I was pretty far from my TV when I was watching it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so you're gonna miss that. That's fine. You didn't miss anything juicy. There wasn't anyone just going like, "Oh God, she's dead" or something. You know, it's like, it was all good.
Yeah.
We get Brandy Rhodes gets her own intro for this next match.
She deserves it.
She deserves it.
My eyeballs were happy.
She gets her own intro, and Cody gets like a massive Goldberg entrance as well with his dog and DDP, and Tommy Dreamer and Glacier.
Can't forget Glacier.
Right. Holy shit, Glacier, unbelievable. Complete. Because I looked at that guy and I was like, oh, was that the Mountie? I was trying to picture in my head who it was, but yeah, Glacier. That's right. Good call, man.
What a odd group of people.
The Nightmare
DDP,
family,
Glacier, and Tommy Dreamer.
You'll not be seeing Tommy Dreamer for a while anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
he got in trouble too.
He did get in trouble too. We'll not get into that. Jesus. We get Earl Hebner as the ref, and we get Nick Aldis coming out with Jeff Jarrett, Daivari, Tim Storm, and maybe Sam Shaw, aka Dexter Loomis. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, it was him. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I again, it was one of those ones where I was not too sure who it was. I knew I recognized him, so yeah, I was glad I managed to pin that one down.
I don't know who in commentary said it, but they said Aldis's group is full of Hall of Famers, and I'm like, Jeff Jarrett, and that's about it. I don't know if Daivari or Sam Shaw are going to be Hall of Famers. Well, they're not Hall of Famers as of now, that's for sure.
What about Tim Storm?
I don't know who that is.
See, I watched NWA Power, and I didn't know who he was up until that point, but I did like him. He is very good. He's sort of one of these journeymen he was NWA champion for a long period of time when it was in its dark ages, I guess, or going, not really in the sort of public spotlight. Seems like a decent dude, solid hand in the ring. Great to see him here. Completely forgot that he was on the show though, just for a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
We get Aldis's music, which I've just got a note here, which is it's awesome, and I much preferred the Cody Rhodes' god awful entrance theme.
Oh really? Well, let me tell you what I wrote about that.
Oh shit.
I wrote, Cody's Down Straight song is one of the best entrance songs ever.
No way. Get out of here. It's not.
I like it. It gets me pumped. I don't know why, especially during the chorus.
Oh, Jesus. No, give me Nick Aldis's music every day. It's great.
So see, here's a spot where I give an entrance song a 4 and you give it a 1.
-1 for Cody's thing.
Oh, a -1.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? I think it's just, it annoys me. I think it annoys me as much as Cody Rhodes does. So there's a spoiler for this match.
I can see that.
Yeah. Nick Aldis, you the first time you saw him was on Impact as Brutus Magnus.
I've heard of him would be the better term.
Well,
yeah, I've never really seen a match of his.
Okay, well, for like our European listeners, or specifically, I guess, the UK listeners, I first saw Nick Aldis when he was on the UK Gladiators. And I'm not talking about the good Gladiators that everyone remembers when, like, you had like Jet and Wolf and all of the good old Gladiators. I'm talking about the Gladiators reboot from like 2010, and he was called Oblivion. That is a reference specifically to the UK because it was like a fart and it just dissipated instantly. It was a terrible series. And then magically I was watching Impact one day and I was like, that's bloody Oblivion, and they named him Brutus Magnus. No, and he came. I think he came in like a sort of Legionnaire sort of outfit or something.
I'm not sure.
I'm glad he managed to turn his career around though, and just went with Nick Aldis. So there you go. Brief history of Brutus Magnus. The crowd was super hot for this one. There was there was a slow start to this one, but there was a tope suicida, which is through the ropes, from Cody to Aldis on the outside. There's a suplex by Aldis to Cody to the mats on the outside, which looked pretty tough. There was a stiff whip by Aldis to Cody into the corner when they're back in the ring again. There was a super kick from Cody to Aldis, which completely missed. I don't know if you noticed that. And he went to kick.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at my notes. Excalibur said, Cody connects with the super kick. And I wrote, Cody, in fact, did not connect with the super kick.
He connected with thin air is what he connected with.
He connected with John Cena more than Nick Aldis.
Yeah, there was a really impressive. Cody does this like impressive springboard, like it's basically a jumping nothing where he like springboards and he's not doing anything with his hands. It's not a crossbody, but Aldis like socks him with like a forearm in the air, and this is sort of where the match sort of goes off the rails a little bit. So like the ref, like Earl Hebner has like this tendency to just wave matches off, or like he interrupts a match and he doesn't do what a referee is supposed to do, which is just all he has to do is get in the ring and start counting, and that's what he should have done. What he did was he was like, oh, hold on, back off there, Aldis, don't go anywhere near him, he's hurt. Yeah, that's the point. You're supposed to get the guy on the ground and, you know, beat him up. So he's basically standing over him and just going, oh, then back off, give him some air, he's going to be all right here. And it's there's all these intervening factors in this match that help Cody get back to his feet, which is just, it was driving me mad. At the time I was excited to see, you know, Cody in the match and going for the NWA Championship because of the history and the lineage, but watching it back I was kind of cross here. So we get DDP running down, so like poor old Nick Aldis, like the guy who's the heel of the match, is getting like he's got DDP running down and interfering. We've got Daivari coming down to sort of back up Nick Aldis. They have an argument, him and DDP, after the Daivari sort of tells the ref, quite rightly, get in the ring and start counting Cody out here. And so DDP's like, oh, hold on a second here, you know. And so they get into like a shoving match. DDP hits a lovely diamond cutter on him. And then, so the camera shows Cody on the floor after this forearm blow, and he's sort of dazed and he looks a bit out of it. But he's fine. Like, he's just, there's nothing wrong with him. The camera cuts to DDP and Daivari in the ring. Diamond cutter cuts back. Cody is just bleeding out of his head here, out of nowhere.
I specifically was looking for that. First of all, when Cody went down, the ref threw up the X, which I don't like seeing. I don't like seeing that as a plot device. Yeah. Because I get really confused. I don't like people getting hurt, and I've seen a few incidents of people getting legitimately hurt, and it's scary. One that comes to mind was Enzo Amore. I don't know if you remember that match, but he like dove out of the ring and he just went limp. And I thought he hit his head off the rope. Yeah, I thought he was dead. And so seeing an X, and I got really confused. I was like, is this a storyline or what's going on here? Yeah. And I was specifically looking at Cody's face as much as I could to make sure he's not bleeding, because Cody is a bleeder. And like you said, after he was on the ground for like what felt like 10 minutes, all of a sudden he's bleeding. I don't know what he was doing down there, but all of a sudden
he was bleeding. That's what he was doing. He was just cutting his forehead. And it was just ridiculous. Just my note here just says Cody is now somehow bleeding. So there was a power slam. So once Cody sort of gets out of his, he shakes off the cobwebs. There's a power slam to Aldis. Aldis sidesteps a moonsault. There's a fall away avalanche slam to Cody from the second turnbuckle. There was a big splash to Cody off the top rope. There's a figure four by Cody to Aldis, so Cody's sort of turning the momentum around. The picture cut out for a minute or two, or for maybe half a minute for me here. I don't know if you got the same. I don't know if it was me or
I didn't catch that. Black.
No, it must have been just my computer. There's a running power slam by Aldis to Cody on the outside. Cody tries an Alabama slam, but he drops him selling on his back. I don't know if he actually just botched picking him up.
It kind of looked like a botch, honestly.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure, but I think the announcers covered up for it, saying that he's too weak.
That was Excalibur. I mean, that was him on point again, and he does this a couple of times through the night where he's just like instantly, oh, it's because of that. That's why he can't do that, and that is no doubt like when Tony Khan was watching this, was just like, yep, gotta get me some Excalibur on my show.
Yes.
So there is Cody tries the Alabama Slam, fails, and then he goes again and connects it. So I guess backs up. It was a bit of a botch. There's a powerbomb to Cody into the Kingsland Cloverleaf. A pile driver to Cody, and then for some reason, and this is the second part of this match where I'm just scratching my head, going, "What is going on here?" Brandy Rhodes interrupts the match. Cody's down on the mat. He's been legitimately beat up in the ring. He's had pile drivers. He's had crossbodies. He's had everything. It's just legitimate moves. Nobody's hit him with a chair. It's all good. All legitimate moves. And for some reason, Brandy comes in to cover up Cody for this next bit. And Earl Hebner's just happy. He's just standing back going, "Oh, there's nothing I can do." Even though he's the flipping ref. It's...
This made me upset. Like, why is... This should be interference. Cody should be disqualified. I know that she is not hitting his opponent, but like, imagine you're watching a soccer match or a football match, and like, the coach just runs into the middle of the field in the middle of the match, and the ref is just like, "Oh, this is fine. As long as he's not kicking the ball, he's fine." No, you stop the match. You get whoever is not participating in the match. You get him off the field. You get him out of the ring. But yeah, here she is, like, nursing him. Like, she might as well bring out a med kit and like give him some booster shots or something. Like, this made me upset.
This is wild because like this would basically that's a great analogy, because this would be the equivalent of the coach running down the field and standing in goals to help the goalkeeper defend a kick. So like Aldis comes off the top with an elbow drop and hits the back of Brandy, and for some reason the crowd start chanting "asshole," and I'm going, but why?
Yeah,
she did it herself.
Yeah, and when he honestly, like, if you watch it like frame by frame, he jumped right after, or like right before she got on top of Cody. So it wasn't even his fault. It wasn't Aldis's fault that he hit her.
Absolutely robbed.
I would have chanted, "You deserve it." I mean, Brandy, she's a beautiful woman, and I like looking at her, and like she's a great person, but like she just interferes too much in matches, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. There's a disaster kick and a crossroads from Cody to Aldis. He kicks out at 2. Cody conjures a sunset flip and pins Aldis in what I thought was a really abrupt finish to this match. But it was 22 minutes and 1 second roughly. I was soft on this match. Like I was hemming and hawing between like just bombing this match and giving it sort of the emotional support, like the emotional star rating. So I probably bumped it up a little bit. I give it a 3.75, and I think I went too high on it.
One of my notes says Nick Aldis did nothing wrong.
I love it.
Justice for Nick Aldis 3 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote too much shenanigans, but a decent match overall. So I'm gonna give it a 3.
Okay, I've gone too high. I thought this is the one that you were going to give higher marks. I'm way too high with my marks here tonight. What is going on?
No, you just have all those quarters. I don't do quarters. I just do halves, because then it gets too complicated. Basically, what I'm doing in my mind is a 10-point scale. So when I say I give it a 3, I'm actually giving it like a 6, which is just slightly above average.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
5 is average, 6 is a little bit above average.
So you liked the match overall, but I'm glad to hear that you were bothered by the spots that I was bothered by, because I sort of thought that the emotional victory was, at the time, like in 2018, I was really ecstatic. I was like, "Oh, this is great," just like his dad. And now I sort of look back on it, I go, "That wee fucker shouldn't have won that match." Like,
I mean, he should have won, but too much shenanigans. I don't like that, especially from a baby face. It's pretty stupid, I think.
Yeah, this is sort of the tale of Cody's, I think, wrestling career, is that he just has all of these people around him, and it just bothers me immensely that this is supposed to be a babyface character that's presented to us. you know, and celebrating at the end was great to see. You know, he's the 94th NWA champion at that stage. So he's doing lots of hot dog and the crowd's going crazy and stuff. But like, I think this is like, maybe, you know, you can comment on this as well. But for me, like, the problem Cody has now is basically the same problem he had then in 2018, which was he presents himself as this everyman, you know, like his dad did. Like, he loves, you can obviously see the influence his dad has been on his career. He wanted to be the NWA champion. He becomes the NWA champion. You know, he starts his own business. He's wearing all the lush suits like Ric Flair and stuff. But he presents himself as like the everyman. Like, he's, oh, I'm your next door neighbor. It's like, you're not my next door neighbor. You live in a big massive mansion and you have all the money in the world and you have massive bits of like jewelry, fancy watches. You know, you couldn't be anything further from Dusty Rhodes in the sort of 70s, which is what he seems to be basing his career on, which was this, oh, we're going to run the town, me and Flair, we're going to have all these Broadway matches that go an hour and they're going to be fantastic. And I just don't believe anything that comes out of his mouth. It's just that he's this natural sort of like cocky heel. And I even got it back in 2018, and he was just coming off a heel run. You know, this is when he had just reconciled with Kenny Omega and the Bucks, because they had a falling out, and I think Omega and him had a match, and it's kind of a mess, the storytelling at this sort of stage. But whatever came out at the end of it was, I basically didn't like Cody. So for this match in 2018, I was supporting him. But looking back, I'm like, I'm on Aldis' side. This is too weird for me. How do you sort of feel about Cody? Like, does he do anything for you?
My experience with Cody before AEW was mostly of him being Stardust. So basically, he was just a joke character. So I never really thought much of him. I do agree with everything that you said. He cannot decide if he wants to be Dusty or Ric Flair, because, like you said, he's this American hero defending him against. He's defending America against Anthony Ogogo, because I guess the British people are evil again. I don't know. And then he has this black baby on the way, so he's like super liberal, I guess, or progressive, you could say. But then on his show, like even last night's Dynamite, I don't know if you watched it yet, but
I haven't seen it yet.
There's a short segment where Arn confronts Cody at his house. And they specifically shoot it in a way where you could see that Cody lives in this giant mansion that it's a multi-million-dollar mansion for sure. And on Instagram, he has like the Bentleys and like all these cars. And it's like, yeah, like I cannot relate to that. So
yeah,
definitely a lot of heelish sides to Cody. And I kind of do want to see him as a heel. Like a full-blown heel. I think he would do well with that. He would seem more authentic that way.
I mean...
And yeah, there's always somebody ready to save the day for Cody. Every time he wins, it's always because, like, somebody helps him out. And when he does lose, it's always, like, dramatic. Oh, I gotta take my boots off and pretend that I'm retiring. Or... like, oh my God, where does his career go from here? Like, dude, you lost the match, come back next week, win the next one. It's not that big of a deal.
That's it. I think you've hit the nail on the head there, in that there's no consequence for Cody Rhodes losing. And there hasn't been for years. You know, Cody Rhodes had a tremendous run in WWE. He's earned lots of money. He probably made... I mean, he has been money since day one, since he was born. He was born into money. He's made his own money now from the WWE, being Dashing Cody Rhodes and then Stardust and doing all that nonsense. You know, he's an executive VP or vice president of AEW. He has his own show now, you know, Rhodes to the Top. He had another show, I can't remember the name of it, but it was with Snoop Dogg.
Oh, yeah, it's like some kind of like a game contest show. I forgot. Yeah. Oh, it's called The Big Show. Yeah.
He has nothing to lose. Like, this guy has literally nothing to lose. So I think when the fans sort of see him in ring, he's gonna be the default heel, because an Anthony Ogogo has nothing. Like, he's I can't remember if he's deaf in one ear or like blind in one eye. I can't really remember. Apologies for anyone who's listening and screaming at their phone. But he's comes from a sort of a an underprivileged sort of background. He doesn't have a history, whereas Cody Rhodes has. I'm the son of Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty Rhodes, obviously in the end of his life was, doing fairly well for himself. So it's a strange one. It's nice to sort of see him capture the NWA Championship. I think they just could have done it in maybe a slightly better way looking back on it. But I mean, hindsight 2020, what can you do?
Before we move on, I do want to say I don't want to sound like a Cody hater, because I do respect a lot of the stuff that he's done. Like, I'm very grateful that he took part in creating AEW, and I have been watching Rhodes to the Top, the TV show that he's on, his new reality TV, and he does seem like a pretty genuine guy, and like he seems like he cares about people. Like, he interacts with like Ricky Starks a lot in the show, and like he was like he was trying to really coach Anthony Ogogo, and like he was like praising him after their match backstage and everything, and he does have a lot to live up to. I mean, he's a son of a legend. We see what happens to guys like David Flair who are in their father's shadow. They just go off the rails. It like ruins their lives, and even to a certain degree, Dustin, he couldn't live up to Dusty, and I think Cody, he does have a lot of pressure on him. So as a human being, I want to respect Cody. As a wrestler, yes, he's annoying.
I agree 100% everything you've just said there. I think that like I can distinguish between Cody Rhodes the character and Cody Rhodes the actual human being, and from what I see, I like him. He seems like a nice guy. He's going to be a good father, I'm sure, to his child that he's got now. But yeah, just the character and the person, they can be separate, and they can be told in a much more succinct fashion. You can be a heel and obviously still be a nice guy, because I think the fans will support booing him because they currently boo him. So there is a way to continue doing what he's doing, but also just sort of stop playing to the sort of, stop playing the good guy in the ring and the good guy in storylines, I guess, ways. So yeah, I mean, I fully expect one day Cody Rhodes will turn around and just say, you know what, I said I wasn't going to challenge for the AEW Championship. I lied. And that'll be it. It'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe it. That's just instant. He'll completely flip the crowd, and they'll fully support him as a heel, and they'll love him while they're doing it as well, because I think everyone loves to hate a bad guy. So we'll see. Okay, so yeah, we get this like weird moment where like the commentators are stalling for a while. I guess while they're like clearing the ring or something, or setting up the next match. It's very strange, but it does take a while. We do get this recap of the next match of Hangman Page and I guess like the Joey Ryan feud, which was covered on BTE. I've nothing to say about it. I'm not going to cover it. If you watch the show, you'll see it. We will discuss. I will bring up a point about our Joey Ryan at the end of this, but we'll get into the match first, which is Joey Janela versus Adam Page. There's a lot of moves in this. I'll try to sort of just gloss through most of this, but there's like some lovely spots at the start, and then there's like a huge moonsault by Page to Janela on the outside. Page brings a chair into the ring because it's a Chicago street fight, so anything goes, basically. Page brings a chair into the ring, sets it up, and then throws Janela into it with a fallaway slam, which looked really sore. I would not like to take this. This is an Adam Cole special, I guess. We get Page gets whipped into a literal Cracker Barrel. A barrel that's sitting at ringside with Cracker Barrel, because apparently they did the catering at the event, which was nice. They supplied their own barrel. I guess all the crackers come in a barrel. We don't have Cracker Barrel over here, so I have no idea.
Oh, really?
Is it just like a restaurant? Oh.
I honestly don't know. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. It's not in your area then?
Maybe it probably is. I've heard the name, but maybe it's just something that I'm not into. So
because in the UK and Ireland, there's a cheese called Cracker Barrel, which comes in a red packet and is sort of like a rectangle, like a cuboid, like a weird.
Okay, so it says actually we do not have a Cracker Barrel in Washington. The closest one is in Portland, Oregon, and it is a restaurant. It says it's like a breakfast type place.
Oh, okay.
So you get like pancakes and like waffles, that kind of stuff.
So they must have had a really nice spread then. Oh, that's nice to know. So Janela does a somersault onto Paige into the crowd. There's a lot of like spectacular moves in this match. I was really impressed with this one to a certain point, I'll say. Janela rolls the barrel at Paige, like Donkey Kong rolling the barrel at Mario.
Yeah, they even mentioned that on commentary.
They were loving this. Like the crowd were loving it too. I mean, they were really hot for this match. There's a buckshot lariat to Janela. Paige sets up a table on the outside. Janela hits Paige with a Death Valley bomb into the table. Janela brings a ladder and props it between the ring and the barrel. With Paige laying on the ladder, Janela climbs to the top of the turnbuckle, but Paige grabs him and hits him with a burning hammer onto the ladder, which is mind-blowing. Burning hammer looks like a brutal move anyway, but this was just unbelievable. And for those that don't know, it's sort of like an inverted, what's the move Cena used?
Death Valley Driver?
Yeah, like it's sort of like an inverted Death Valley Driver. Penelope Ford, who's with Janela, interrupts Paige, hitting a stunner and a high crossbody, which looked awesome. And then
that's one of the best stunners I've ever seen. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, go for it. I mean, I thought it was
tremendous. It was beautiful. Yeah.
Even the crossbody afterwards, it was a really fluid sort of series of moves she was doing, and I thought she was great in this.
Yeah, and all her dodging, she did like triple like back handstand flip, whatever it's called. That was impressive too.
Very Matrix, yeah.
Yeah.
And Janela hits an elbow to Paige through the table. We got after that. And then on the stage, Janela hits Paige with a clothesline with this like comical, it's like a really comical long running clothesline, but he's jogging. It was really weird.
I wrote, watching Janela run is hilarious. Because it was a very weak looking clothesline in comparison to how long he ran for it. Because he ran for it like, I don't know, like half a football field, and then it was just like a little punch.
It was pretty pathetic.
Yeah.
And it was to set up, it was basically so that he could set up two tables in that tiny little entranceway where all the people are. And I was like, there's no way these tables are going to go sideways through this thing. But they did. They got them set up. I was kind of impressed.
They were perfect fit. Yeah.
Yeah. Just, they must have measured. That must have been their measuring stick, was if we can fit one table lengthwise through this entrance ramp, we're laughing. And so, of course, I mean, Excalibur always brings this up. Chekhov's gun. He always references it. Oh, it's Chekhov's table, and that's basically like Chekhov's theory is if there's a gun in a scene of a movie or a play, eventually it will be used. So,
okay.
That's why you always hear him saying that. So basically, Janela sets up two tables, but Paige ends up throwing Janela off the stairs through one of the tables, but barely. Like he barely manages to go through one of them, so he almost threw him too short. There's a buckshot lariat, rite of passage to Janela in the ring. Ford breaks up the pin and Paige sells, seeing his cowboy boots. So again, this is part of the story between him and Ryan. Really brief. Paige thought he killed Joey Ryan and his boots were talking to him. It's very weird, and they do cover it in the intro video.
Yeah,
it sounds as daft as I'm explaining it, I guess. Super kick from Janela to Paige. There's tables and ladders in the ring. Paige hits Janela with a phone again because of the storyline, and then murders him through a table with the rite of passage in 20 minutes and 8 seconds. And I give it 3.5 stars. I liked the match itself.
I was loving this match until the boots thing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really stupid. I'm gonna get more into stupid talk in a little bit once we start talking about Joey Ryan. But the match, I'm gonna give it a 3.5 because it was very impressive. It was hardcore. It was entertaining. Penelope, unlike Brandy, she added to this match instead of taking away from it. So. Yeah, 3.5. I'm gonna go 3.5.
Awesome. Yeah, it did totally make sense that she was there and she could interrupt, and she was allowed to interrupt because it's a street fight. She can do that. So I kind of like that, and yeah, we're on the same page for that one. Definitely, I wanted to give the match a fair shout, because I didn't want to count what came after it as part of the match. It's its own thing, and it lives on its own little island. And I didn't write any notes down for it, so if you want to say something about what happens next, go for it. But I'm not going to cover it.
This is what I wrote down. Oh no, it's Joey Ryan. So after Paige wins, we see a video of Joey Ryan, who's presumably dead, and the camera pans to his crotch area, and you see like his pants rising up. Mm-hmm. And that's when I wrote, oh no, it's Joey Ryan. And then you get an Undertaker entrance ripoff, but instead of druids, it's a bunch of guys in literal like penis outfits with balls and everything. Mm-hmm. And they line up, and Joey Ryan has this porn music playing, and he comes out with his baby oil, and he's doing his poses where he like sticks his penis out, and he like pours baby oil on his legs and into his pants. And at this point, I was not having fun anymore.
Yeah, that's why I didn't take any notes, because it's really uncomfortable. Like,
and it shocked me because people were actually cheering for this. I was like, "There's no way! Like, how is this over? Like, how is this popular? It doesn't make sense."
Well, this is the weird land that All In lives in, because I guess it wasn't too much after this where, you know, stuff was coming out about, you know, Joey Ryan. At that stage, he was sponsored by like Pornhub.
YouPorn. Yeah, he had a T-shirt.
YouPorn or something like that, and just like this dude, like is it's still going on to this day of like, you know, he's pretty much been blacklisted. Joey Janela did come out after, you know, when the allegations were sort of made against Joey Ryan from, you know, several women came out and said that he had been like sexual misconduct allegations, we'll say, or allegations of sexual misconduct, and Joey Janela came out and supported the women and said a few things about Joey Ryan that sort of backed up their, you know, some of their stories, I guess. You know, he's never sort of admitted to anything. He's denied everything, but he does currently, or he was going to a like a sexual rehabilitation clinic. So he's in one hand saying he's basically calling the women liars that have come out and said that, you know, he was sexually sort of molesting them, I guess. And then on the other hand, he's also saying, oh, I do have a problem, so I need to go to like a rehab facility. And it's, I guess, in the vain attempt to try and sort of ingratiate himself back into like the sort of the fans. You know, there are people that still support him that don't believe that, you know, these 7 different women that, you know, didn't try to sue Joey Ryan, but Joey Ryan tried to sue them, which I think at the moment anyway, all of them have been dropped, although he still has, I think, 2 cases that he hasn't pursued, but he could still pursue. The judge in, I think, the last 2 lawsuits, or one of them at least, dropped the case because there was no evidence of what Ryan was saying. So he hasn't been able to prove himself, you know, innocent, but, you know, nothing's proving him, you know, I guess guilty in the sort of same light.
Yeah.
He was dropped by Impact in 2020, I believe. And his last lawsuit, which is against Anthem Impact, is still open. So, you know, you can choose, you know, what you want to believe, I guess, about Joey Ryan, but you know, he was married at the time, I think, of this. He's no longer married. I think even his wife had come out and said a few things about him that were, you know, sort of uncomfortable home truths, perhaps. He's tried to, you know, convert himself to Christianity, I think, in a weird way as well. So he's still there. He's still trying to get booked. He was recently, I think, booked on a independent show. They basically, a bunch of, as I said in the last episode, a bunch of people got wind of this, and they were like, you know, telling the organization, don't be booking this guy, and they stepped away and went, oh, we didn't, you know, we weren't aware of all these allegations. It was like, come on now, you can't like, this was, his case is like one of the biggest, I guess, out of all of the speaking out allegations, which we sort of briefly touched on in the last, the first episode there. Just really uncomfortable sort of seeing this. I did watch it. I remember at the time it being sort of funny and tongue-in-cheek, which is what it's meant to be. But when you sort of look back now, understanding just how seedy this guy is from the allegations, it didn't make for good watching. So I didn't comment on the actual what was going on in the ring. I didn't think it was needed anyway.
Well, for me, taking all the speaking out stuff out of this and judging this purely from like entertainment standpoint, I've seen clips of Joey Ryan's penis flip on the internet because it became a meme basically, and I thought it was the stupidest thing ever. And a good comparison is Orange Cassidy, because a lot of people say, "Oh, Orange Cassidy, he makes wrestling look stupid. It's embarrassing. Like his hands in his pockets. He's like lazy about everything. His little kicks are not realistic." The thing with Orange Cassidy is that, yeah, his kicks are stupid, but his opponents are not selling them like they're the most devastating kicks ever, But to see Adam Page grab Joey Janela's dick and then just scream in pain and flip himself over like he just got powerbombed or something, I'm like, dude, this is so stupid. Like, if someone walks in on me watching this, I don't even know how I'm going to explain this. This is embarrassing. This is like when I tell people that I'm watching wrestling and they're like, "Oh, I used to watch it when I was a kid, when I thought it was fake, when I was like 10. Because they still think that like it's so fake and stupid and embarrassing. And when stuff like this happens, it's hard to defend, in my honest opinion. And this was just so bad. And I don't understand. Like, I'm sorry, I'm going on a rant, but I gotta get this off my chest. These gimmicks, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, but like, we see plenty of stupid gimmicks, especially in WWE. And most of them come from Vince's mind, because Vince, he has a pervy, dark section of his brain where he comes up with the Val Venuses of the business and everything. But this is something that Vince makes you do. He's paying you money. You better do it, pal, or else you're fired, Joey Ryan, as far as I understand, he's an independent wrestler. He came up with this gimmick. There is no Vince that's telling him what to do. This is purely something he came up with. Basically, his whole gimmick is just being a pervert. And there's got to be something going on in your brain that makes you think that, oh, this is cool. Like, this is what's going to excite people. I don't know. This guy's just weird. I wrote down, I'm so glad he's not in AEW, because I swear to God, if he was in AEW, I would not watch it.
Yeah, I think that's, this character was never going to translate to anything other than an internet meme. And you mentioned Orange Cassidy there. It works well because it's family friendly. And when you see like the little kids in AEW's audience dressed as Orange Cassidy, like that just, like, it warms my heart seeing that.
Yeah.
Like they're getting into it. They love what he's doing. And that's all that you need to know that character works. It's simple. And, Orange Cassidy, it's the whole thing is he's lazy and he's, rolling around the ring like he was doing. I saw a clip of him from Wednesday night there where Pac was like running really fast over him and Orange Cassidy's just sort of rolling really slowly, and then Pac gives up. And it's funny because pro wrestling can be funny, and then when he needs to turn it on, he just snaps. And we saw it, I think it was All Out when it was Chris Statlander versus Britt Baker, and he was screaming at Chris Statlander. He's like, "Get up!" And and when moments like that, you get the crowd goes like, "Holy shit, this guy's taking it seriously." So it elevates anything he does when he's not doing the lazy stuff. So like people can scoff at it and laugh at Orange Cassidy, but I think that like he's tapped into a market for that type of wrestling, and he can wrestle like an absolute wizard too. So that's I guess maybe we'll move on from Joey Ryan and take away the positive that gimmicky wrestling, fun wrestling can be done where it's not sexual assault. So
yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay, so we get Jay Lethal backstage, and someone triggers him into macho mode, which is Lanny Poffo, basically. The Jay Lethal at the time. So, were you ever sort of aware of like the Black Machismo character that he was doing in Impact? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I am aware that he was impersonating Macho Man, and he was very good at it. I was not aware that you have to touch his shoulder in order to activate it. I don't understand that part.
No, it's basically, so Samoa Joe beat the absolute bag out of Jay Lethal back in the day in Impact, and the idea was that he was concussed thinking he was Macho Man, and that's how the Black Machismo gimmick was born, and worked really well. I enjoyed it for a period. His Ring of Honor run has been obviously much longer than his original Impact run, and so the idea behind this was that I think he got hit in the head on being the Elite, and so that he brought it back, but every time he got hit he would then go back to being Jay Lethal. So the idea was he got hit really hard in the shoulder, I'm Macho Man again now, so he comes out then obviously, you know, in the whole get up. So we get Flip Gordon coming out because he won the Battle Royale at the start with Brandy Rhodes, because Brandy, you know, was friends with him. He was the sort of, I guess, apprentice in a weird way of Cody Rhodes. I remember seeing them on Being the Elite, and they would always sort of be in like a hot tub or a swimming pool or something chatting away, and he was always trying to get on to All In. And we get Jay Lethal coming out in the original Macho Man or an original Macho Man outfit or gear. I have this
his WCW debut gear. I'm pretty sure.
I have this like really vague memory of like it was loaned to Jay Lethal, not by Lanny Poffo, but actually somebody else in the area that owned it, because I think it was sold years ago, and so they loaned it to Jay Lethal to wear. I have that. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but I have this vague memory in my mind. So we get Flip Gordon versus Jay Lethal for the Ring of Honor title. There's a really nice history lesson by Excalibur at the very start of this, where he does explain why Jay Lethal is doing this, like where he's pretending to be Macho Man and he's running around the ring and he's trying to stop Brandy Rhodes from getting hurt and stuff like Macho Man used to do for Miss Elizabeth. So it's a very solid quick start to the match mixed in with sort of comedy. There's far too many moves to sort of go through here for Flip Gordon. He's incredible. It's a tremendous I guess showcase of his move sets here. There's 2 tope suicidas and a tope con hilo, so it's 2 through the ropes and then 1 over the top of the rope by Flip Gordon onto Lethal on the outside, which was incredible, so fast. There was a flip with a rotating splash, so he comes off the top turnbuckle and like sort of rotates himself slowly in the air onto Lethal on the mat.
I've never seen an inverted frog splash before. That's what it looked like. It was a frog splash, but he like spun 180 degrees in the air.
It was so simple, but it looked really impressive because it was so sort of, it was just strange to sort of see. It was strange to look at. I was trying to work out how he'd done it in the air. There's lots of pinning combos. There's a standing moonsault by Flip. There's a splash to Lethal. There's a lethal combination to Flip. There's a Falcon Arrow from Flip for a near fall, which of course Excalibur says nobody kicks out of the Falcon Arrow. He kicks out immediately. There's a torture rack from Lethal to Flip. We get a little bit of Lanny Bollocks, which is the only note I have here. It just says Lanny Bollocks, which is where he gets up onto the apron after, I think, Lethal gets out of the macho mode, so then Lanny comes up and slaps him, and then that puts him back into macho mode. We get macho elbows, Macho Man elbow drops off the top rope 3 times, and Flip kicks out, which I wasn't a big fan of, because like you're using a finishing move, it should be the finishing move. I would have kind of liked the crescendo to be that move, but oh well.
But in 2018, it's just an elbow drop. It has to be like a 630 elbow drop in order for it to be a finisher.
No, it's the intent of the move. It's the intent of the move. I am channeling Macho Man, therefore it is a finisher. Flip, I just have it here. Flip turns into Hulk Hogan.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He sort of starts off with a bit of the Warrior, and then he turns into Hulk Hogan, does like a big boot. And then there's a spring blade to Lethal, which is like off.
That was very nice.
That was really sweet. It's like a sling blade, but instead of running, he actually springs off the ropes. And then he does a Samoan pop, which is basically like a Samoan drop, but like a backflip. It was really cool looking.
I don't think I've seen that before either.
I think I've seen him use it before. But
I've never seen his matches before. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, he was in
outside
New
of him,
Japan and stuff that I was watching years ago. So, there's a cutter to Flip, lethal injection by Lethal, and he wins in 14 and a half minutes. And I really enjoyed this match. I gave it a tentative 4 stars. Because I have to I give it a tentative 4 stars because I have to look past the Lanny bollocks and all of the sort of jokey stuff at the start of the match. It starts off like a house show with all the comedy and the slapstick, and then it becomes a decent match. So towards the end, I was like, this is great. This looks phenomenal. What did you think overall?
Oh, I think Flip Gordon was pretty impressive. Like I said, I've never seen him before, and I haven't seen him since. It's another one of those guys that I'm wondering, why is he not in AEW? One of the things I'm always afraid of when I see someone impressive and they're not in AEW, but they're like from the indies, I'm always like, why are they not here? Is it because they're like, they were spoken out against or something? Am I liking this guy, but he's like a dick in real life or something? I always get that fear in the back of my mind. But yeah, I would love to see him in AEW, especially if he's Cody's friend. I don't see why not. Yeah, but he had very impressive moves. Jay Lethal, I wasn't really a fan of the whole snap into a Slim Jim. I don't like the whole slapping back and forth. I do like the Macho Man gimmick. I love that tribute. And if he was just Macho Man the whole time, I would have liked it more. But it kind of gave me Festus vibes. Remember when Festus... He was mentally challenged, but then, like, I don't remember, he was activated somehow, and he became, like, a monster.
It was a ring bell. And then he was, terrible.
This was a bit too goofy for a World Championship match, in my opinion. But overall, the match was good, and in my opinion, good is 3.5, so I'm going to give it that.
Fair enough. It was very overbooked, the match, and even afterwards, we had an overbooked spot, and I mean, I was looking at I'm looking at my clock because I know that the pay-per-view was very, very tight. And there was like about an hour and 19 minutes left at this stage of this pay-per-view. It was a long pay-per-view, but they were burning through time at this stage. So Bully Ray runs down, attacks both men and Lanny. Colt Cabana runs out, makes a save, and then Flip, Lethal and him powerbombing Bully Ray through a table after he has to set the table up. So I mean, you think about the time getting in, attacking everyone, getting out of the ring, setting up a table in the ring. It's just burning through time here to get far too much onto the pay-per-view, I think.
When Bully was setting up the table, somebody yelled, "Where's Devon?" Did you catch that?
Yeah, it's like, come on, So next match we'll move on to. We get Penta El Zero, or El Zero, is it? El Zero versus Kenny Omega.
It's different every week.
Yeah,
call him Penta.
It was Penta El Zero M, I think, in this match, but the graphic is just Penta El Zero. So
Penta the Zero. That's a great name.
We get Don Callis for this commentary in this one, and it's kind of nice to sort of see, with Kenny where he is now with Don Callis, and Don Callis is like the biggest fan for Kenny Omega even back in 2018, and I guess
I'm actually very used to hearing Don Callis on commentary whenever I watch Kenny Omega because of AEW, so this was right at home for me.
Yeah, awesome. So I'll breeze through this because this is quite a lengthy match and there's quite a lot of moves in it. Nice, quick, snappy start. There's a beautiful lung blower by Penta to Omega. There's some snap hurricane Rana by Omega. There's a tope by Penta to Omega over the ropes. There's lots of brawling on the outside. Snap power slam by Penta to Omega on the mats. Penta basically is going after Omega's legs during this one. He keeps hitting him some really nasty leg checks that he keeps doing. You get a can't escape by Omega. Penta blocks the moonsault afterwards by sticking his knees up. There's a tornado DDT by Omega, springboard crossbody to Penta on the outside. There's drop kick to the back of Penta off the ropes by Omega, which looked stiff. There's a stiff discus elbow, snapdragon suplex to Penta, Death Valley driver to Penta, V-trigger to the back of Penta in the corner, double stomp in retaliation by Penta to Omega, V-triggers, powerbomb near fall, Pentagon driver to Omega for a near fall, a Fear Factor pile driver on the ring apron to Omega, which looked horrendous, a double stomp off the top rope to Omega, and then as we get into the final stages of the match, there's a Fear Factor to Penta, V-trigger, Fear Factor to Omega, so there's like 3 in a row here, after an arm breaker and a near fall, a V-trigger, Poison Rana, one winged angel, basically combination, one after another, to Penta, and the win goes to Omega in 17 minutes and 45 seconds. What do you think of this one?
Without spoiling the next 2 matches, I'm going to say this was my match of the night.
Yes.
For those who don't know, and maybe even you don't know, but Penta is my favorite wrestler.
Yes.
So, and not just for his wrestling ability, but just the way he looks. He just looks so cool. He looks like a Mortal Kombat character, and I'm just always happy to see him. And I wrote down, Penta is always maxing out his finisher meter with all the taunts.
I love it. Yes.
He's just taunting nonstop. He's getting his face kicked in, and he's just doing his zero fear taunt. Those pile drivers they did to each other, they look brutal. Their heads connected with the floor, definitely. So yeah, this was a great match. My boy lost, but I can't be mad because it was a good showing for both guys.
Absolutely. And if you had to give it a rating out of 5, what would you give it?
Definitely a 4. 4 out of 5.
Okay, I went 4.5. I'm too high. I'm too high with these ratings.
I'm a bit conservative with my ratings.
Yeah, I there was no bollocks in this match. It did start slow. I was kind of worried at the start where Penta does the whole sort of taking the glove off. And he throws it to the ref. I thought, oh god, we're going to have another house show match. But then it was just off to the races and just tremendous. So yeah, definitely my match of the evening and well worth checking out if you're interested out there. So just after the match, we get the lights going out again. I thought, oh shit, I couldn't. Well, I remembered now, but at the time, I was like, oh, they're having like technical problems. Oh, what a disaster! That the pay-per-view is going to end here or something. But it's not. It's part of the story, I guess. So the lights go back on. Omega's celebrating, and Pentagon stands back up. But it's not Penta. You can sort of clearly see that there's different tattoos on the guy. It looks very similar. I mean, at that stage they were very similar in terms of just like body mass. And it's Chris Jericho, and he sort of ambushes Omega and beats him up and says, I'll see you on the cruise. And it's like that. If there isn't a way to set up a match right there, it's like, I'll see you on the cruise ship.
Yeah, actually, I heard of this moment, but I completely forgot that Jericho appears on this. And he looks very convincing. Besides the tattoos, he looks very convincing in that Penta outfit.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's good to see Jericho here, and this is obviously after his WWE run. He'd been doing, I think, a couple of matches in New Japan from memory. But there you are. Next match, we have Marty Scurll versus Kazuchika Okada. This probably doesn't warrant a lot of talk about this match because I'll at the end of it, I'll sort of explain, I guess, a little bit about the sort of story after the match of this one. But so basically, Omega had taken the championship, the NW in the New Japan Pro Wrestling Championship, off of Okada, and Okada at this stage was doing this depressed character. So I'm kind of sad to sort of see you seeing Okada, this being his first match, because this was not a good representation of Okada, who I would sort of consider to be one of the best wrestlers in the world. So it's it's sad to see this is like there was a whole sort of string of like he dyed his hair from blonde. He wasn't as in shape in this one as well. Like normally Okada looks like he's like been sculpted out of like a solid block of marble. So he's slightly out of shape, although he's still in tremendous shape compared to like me. But he was coming out in like t-shirts for a while. He's got the long trousers on. So like fans of Okada were really not happy. They were just like, what is going on here? This guy looks like an absolute state. They even had him coming out with balloons for like an entrance for a while, and Excalibur or Ian Riccaboni or Don Callis mentions like all of this disastrous sort of like off track. Like he was, you know, the best wrestler in the world, and then he just all of a sudden it was like he was sabotaging his own sort of, well, they were the guys who were sort of booking him were sabotaging him in a way. It was really weird. So I'll just briefly sort of gloss through this match because you know, spoiler alert, I didn't really like it. We do get like a little bit of the backstory is Marty Scurll has been booked into a match with Okada as a joke because nobody believes he can win against Okada, which is true, and there was never going to be any doubt that the Scurll should be losing this one, but there you go. So really slow sort of start to the match, and that's sort of the tale of this match. Is there's a lot of really slow spots in the match that just drag on and on and on. There are a few nice spots though. There's a crisp senton atomico to Marty in the ring, kick to Okada, and a swinging DDT by Marty. There's lots of hard uppercuts and a brainbuster by Marty. But every time Marty gets the upper hand in this match, he's just super slow. He's pandering to the crowd. He's looking all around him. The announcers are getting, the commentators are getting annoyed at this as well. They're like, what are you doing? Hurry up, do something. There's an air raid crash to the knee by Okada on Marty. There's a superplex to Okada, a powerbomb by Marty, and a near fall. There's lots of shotgun drop kicks by Okada. There's a tombstone, which is a transitional move in New Japan. So although it's a finisher by The Undertaker, he uses this as just a normal move. There's a finger breaker by Marty, drop kick by Okada, which is, he's well known for his spectacular drop kicks, and this is pretty good, this one.
The finger thing, I want to ask a question very quick. When he does the finger breaker, there's like a popping sound, but I couldn't figure out where it came from.
I have no idea how he does it. It does sound great, but
yeah,
I don't know how he did it.
Even though their hands are fine, like 10 seconds later.
Well, that's it. I know. I guess they're meant to be dislocating the finger. I'm not sure if they're breaking it, but we get a Rainmaker by Marty, leads to a near fall. We get a Rainmaker, attempt by Marty, and then he sets on like a chicken wing. He brings out his umbrella and hits Okada with the umbrella and all. Then we get a Rainmaker by Okada. Marty gets up, spits in his face, and then Okada hits 2 more Rainmakers for the win in 26 minutes and 5 seconds. Being the longest match on this card, which is unreal. What did you think of the match?
So this was my first time watching both guys. I've heard a lot of great things about Okada, especially from you. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I didn't really like it. I thought it was kind of boring, and yes. I didn't even take very many notes. The only note I took is what's the sound that when Scurll was breaking fingers. So that was the only note I took, and I'm not holding it against these guys. I still want to see more, especially from Okada, because I can tell just by his entrance and by his look that he's a big deal. So I do want to check out more of his matches, but this particular was too slow for me, and it was so deep into the show. I was kind of getting tired because this show was like 4 hours long, and this was like a 3.5 hour mark. So I was like, yeah, they need to speed this up a little bit.
Yeah, as I say at the start, I'm so disappointed that this is the match, the sort of debut match, because I thought it might be your first match seeing Okada, and like anyone I think who watches New Japan or has seen an Okada match with like a mega, say for instance, like Dave Meltzer gave it like the highest award. He broke his own scale to give it like 7 stars out of 5. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of ridiculous to see Okada in this joke of a match, and the fact that they went too long. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. The referee was Japanese, so the communication between the wrestlers was obviously going to be disjointed. Obviously he's there for Okada. Okada I don't think speaks really any English, or it's broken if he does at best. They went too long, like far too long. I don't know what they were supposed to hit, but they went over it by a massive margin, and basically ruined our next match, which we'll move on to, I guess, swiftly. So at this stage, at the end of the Okada match, there's only 18 minutes left on the show.
Yeah.
And we immediately go into we don't even get like the full sort of, he gets a little bit of his theme at the end, but then it immediately goes into Rey Mysterio's theme, who comes out after Phoenix, Bandito, for our sort of 6-man tag. So it's Phoenix, Bandito, and Mysterio versus the Golden Elite, which is the Young Bucks and Kota Ibushi.
Well, even this entrance was so weird, because Mysterio's music played for at least a minute with nobody coming out, and then finally Phoenix and Bandito come out. Oh, and the graphic says Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? And I'm like,
I did, yeah.
This is not going according to plan.
I don't
know what's going on.
I don't think, and maybe it's online. I don't think Mysterio was ready. I think.
Probably.
I think he was either in the toilet or he was getting changed, and they're like, "Right, we need you now," and he's like, "What's going on?" So I think he was possibly putting his costume back on, which. I will say Rey Mysterio wins the costume of the night with an awesome Wolverine costume. This is like a glorious, like we're going to be talking about another costume, I think, for our next pay-per-view we're going to be covering. This is so good. He's well known for these sort of, comic book superhero costumes. I think this is his best one. I know his Flash one was pretty good, but I think this one was just chef's kiss. So this is it. So we were 18 minutes before the entrances. We have 13 minutes left, roughly, when the match is just about to start. This is impossible to cover this match because, as you might expect, this match was supposed to be super long and it had to get condensed into 11 minutes and 48 seconds is what the total runtime of this match was. I mean, super fast. If you want to see a super fast lucha match, this is it. The crowd were loving it. I mean, I feel sort of kind of bad for the crowd because they were kind of robbed of my star rating for this match. Like I gave it 4 stars based on what I saw, but I wouldn't actually give it a star rating because I don't think it's fair. I would love to see this match happen, and for them to get like half an hour or something ridiculous so that we could see everything getting done. But there's dives to the outside, there's 619 by Mysterio, there's frog splashes, backflips, blockbusters, there's multiple moonsaults. The Golden Elite are just like the Young Bucks and Kota Ibushi are such a great tag team, like a trios tag team. The match basically ends after a whole bunch of stuff, with a 5-star Meltzer driver and a pin on Bandito by Matt Jackson, I think, for the win. And as I said, it was 11 minutes and 48 seconds. What were your overall thoughts of what you saw?
I was very excited to see Bandito in this match because I've heard good things and I love lucha wrestling. So I'm never seeing him and hearing about how big of a deal he is. I was excited to see him. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, he had like maybe 2 moments overall where he did anything. He did a couple of headstands where he stood on his head. And also I was excited to see Kota Ibushi because I've never seen him either before. And he actually impressed me a lot more than Okada, at least on this show. He was very athletic. I was very surprised with that. Bucks, of course, I've seen them a bunch on AEW recently, so it was kind of typical Bucks match. And Rey, of course, legend, and Phoenix, very, very close second. My favorite wrestler behind his brother Penta. Phoenix, unfortunately, didn't get to do much either. But yeah, it was super rushed. I do wish this was... First of all, I wish this was the opener, because I feel like this is the perfect match to open a show with. Very high-paced, and the crowd has energy to match the wrestlers. But yeah, this was like very short. And as soon as the pinfall happened, the show just faded out. The announcers, they were saying goodbye, but their voices kind of faded out as well. They didn't finish saying goodbye. And I was like, yeah, this should have been organized a little bit differently and a little bit better. I'm gonna give this match 7.5, or not 7.5, 3.5.
Yeah,
I was thinking 7 in my mind. 3.5 stars. It does have like at least a 4.5 star potential though. So I do.
Yeah.
I wish to see a rematch. Unfortunately, I think Mysterio is going to be with WWE for quite a while because of his son. I don't think he's going to want to sabotage his son's career and leave. So, yeah, this match might not happen again. So, I don't know. Maybe we can just replace Ray with Penta and try again.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, just what might have been. Like, this really could have been a tremendous opener. I mean, I liked the MJF Matt Cross match. Did it need to be there? Not really. You could have just had this in its place and then finish with the Jericho reveal, I guess, at the end of the, Omega match. You could have had that last. Maybe had Scurll somewhere in the middle. Again, Marty, you're not going to see him anytime because of speaking out allegations. Well, it's not allegations. He admitted to sleeping with, a 16-year-old, as I think I mentioned in the last episode. Yeah. You're not going to see him on AEW. He was fired by Ring of Honor, or let go from Ring of Honor, I should say. He was their booker for a long while. So yeah, there's a lot of balancing issues with this show. But overall, I really enjoyed the show, and it's, I think, a really historically important show for wrestling, especially definitely. Where we are today. It's a perfect moment in time where you can say that led to that, and you can see that if this was like a connect the dots picture, it would just be a straight line from All In to AEW and where we are today in terms of just the wrestling style that people like to see on their TV, and it can be presented in a a way that's not dumbed down for the sort of general audience, which is what the WWE think that they need to do. You can have your luchadors and your technicians. You don't have to have everyone. There wasn't a person on this card that was too far over, sort of 6 feet. Like, I think Okada's like 6'7", something like that.
6'3", yeah. he looked impressively big.
And he's probably the biggest guy on the card, I guess. There aren't a lot of other people on this card you could sort of point at and go, Hulk Hogan. Do you know what I mean? They're all Bret Harts and Shawn Michaels, and the generation that excited them. Essentially, they are almost like carbon copies of that generation, the new generation that was sort of pushed by WWE and WCW, your Pillmans, and that style of wrestling. So overall, tremendous. I thought it was a great show. It's definitely one worth seeking out and watching on YouTube. What are your overall?
Can't go wrong with free.
Exactly.
I agree. Good show. I'm gonna give this 3.5 stars out of 5 as a show overall. 3.5 again in my mind, meaning good. So yeah, it was a good show. I'm glad it was free. I don't know how much it cost back then. $50 maybe.
I think I have a vague memory of paying £11.99 for it, so that's roughly about $15-16 maybe. I did buy it back in the day on Fight, I think. Again, we're going back to 2018. That was a long time ago, so I can't be sure. Could have watched it on YouTube or Dailymotion. No idea.
For me, it was cool going back and seeing, like you said, how AEW basically was conceived, and where a lot of the characters that I'm familiar with now, how they basically started out. Because if I watched this back in 2018, the only person I would have recognized, I think, is Rey Mysterio, and that's it. And of course Cody, but I'm like I said, I only know him as Stardust. Other than that, I don't think I would have seen anyone prior to that point. But because of AEW, there's every match had at least one AEW person in it, so I was like, okay, I know at least one guy in this match besides the Okada match. So yeah, it was enjoyable, very, like you said, important historically, and I'm glad I finally got to see it. Now I just got to catch up on all the other AEW shows I'm not seen. I mean, as far as pay-per-views go.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, for our next show, as we're in October when we're recording this, it's the 6th of October at the moment. 2 weeks time. Another 2 weeks will go by. And we'll be sort of in and around, sitting quite nicely at about Halloween time. So I know you suggested this. I think it's a great idea. I believe it was WCW Halloween Havoc 97.
Yes, and the reason why I chose that is not just because of Halloween, but because I saw that Wolverine costume that Ray was wearing. and it reminded me of the Phantom costume, which is very famous from this Halloween show, Halloween Havoc '97, and I've never seen that match, and I've never seen the show. Yeah.
Oh my god,
so
this is going to be amazing. I will say, I've seen that show. I can't remember anything other than Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio.
That seems to be the trend with most people.
Yeah,
so
I have no idea what kind of Halloween bollocks we're going to have on that show. There's probably going to be a whole lot of nonsense because we are in NWO country, aren't we? In '97 at that stage, we are deep into it, so it's going to be interesting.
I already know one piece of bollocks, as you would say, and that's the fact that Roddy Piper beats Hogan at a pay-per-view in a non-title match.
Oh shit, that's right. That is. Oh we're gonna get into that one. I'm looking forward to that. Spoiler alert, folks.
We'll save that for later, for 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're gonna hear a lot of angry opinions about that match, and a lot of stupidity about it because I know a little bit of history about that one too. So that's gonna be hilarious. Okay, well, wrapping up then. Anything you want to promote? Your Twitter? Can you remember it this week?
I want to promote WrestleBlast podcast on Spotify, on YouTube, and on Twitter.
Okay, you're going to be doing some work with our YouTube stuff
yes.
coming up?
Our first video was just posted. Wouldn't even call it a video. It's a picture and us talking. But that's because I didn't want to... It was a bit too late for me to start editing. But this new one, we're going to edit a lot more. What we're kind of planning on doing is that YouTube is very picky about copyrights. Basically what you're going to... On YouTube, you're going to hear just kind of raw conversation that we're having on our podcast to go along with footage that I'm going to be putting in. And on Spotify, I don't know if you're going to add like background music or some kind of sound clips or anything like that.
We'll have the intro for All In. You know, we'll have sound bites and stuff perhaps before, you know, the sort of matches and, you know, here's a little look, you know, into how the sausage was made. You know, you've done a new intro for this episode, so it's different, and yeah, going forward, that's sort of what we're gonna be doing. I'll do the audio, and you can do the sort of YouTube stuff for now, and then I'll probably dip into it at some stage and put something together. So
yeah.
Okay, well, I'm at Lostro. You can follow us at WrestleBlast on Twitter, and we are on Facebook still, although it's never posted to because Facebook sucks. And you're at Andre Wakefield something?
Andre_Wakefield.
Awesome. Okay, well, tune in 2 weeks' time. We'll be having WCW Halloween Havoc '97, and we look forward to seeing you then. Cheers.
Bye.